America coming together and other things. A whole bunch of them moved in into Richard Pombo's district 18 months out from the election. And they started working, canvassing neighborhoods. They canvassed the entire congressional district, knew exactly where the votes were, voter registration, media stuff. I mean, the communications effort was incredibly sophisticated. They ran against him on corruption. And so they would go get a two-bit weekly paper to write some lie about Richard Pombo. And then once it was printed, they'd take it and shop it to the other other media. And sooner or later, it showed up on television and the San Francisco papers. And they did that week in and week out. They spent $13 million, not a dime from the Democrat Party, and took out Richard Pombo. They did that in a district, not that much, but they had a shadow campaign in targeted district after targeted district all across the country. And then it stuck up on some people and took them out and took the majority. They're doing it again as we speak in targeted districts all across the country. Now, they also can drive policy with this kind of coalition. After the election, they form these coalitions that are pretty powerful groups because they have coordinated giving. They wanted to thank George W. Bush on the war, so they created a coalition called Win Without War. Took Tom Andrews, former Congressman Pico from Maine, made him head of it, put $20 million in it, and started reaching out to all these leftist organizations to build this coalition. Today, they have over 200 organizations. I mean, NARAL, Sierra Club, all these Acorns, all these leftist groups who have nothing to do with the war are part of this coalition Win Without War. I was telling Floyd Brown earlier, they just opened a brand new coalition, and they have coalitions on many of their projects. They just opened a coalition called Healthcare Now, which they want universal health care. And they did the same thing. They've been working on redistricting for 3 years and have spent over $20 million on redistricting. The Republican National Committee has had one meeting on redistricting a year ago and have not lifted a finger on redistricting. And it's coming up in 2011. And Jeff will be facing it in 2011. And we've done nothing. And you look at the right, and we've got some great organizations on the right. Don't get me wrong. We've got better think tanks than they do. We got Lou Ewer's group and others. But these groups are focused on issues that are economic issues, are focused on social issues, are focused on security issues. And we are fractured, and we don't work together. Now, you say that at a Western CPAC meeting, but we literally do not sit down and develop strategies on issues that are important to us. We have no communications. We've got media research centers stuff. The only thing that I know of out there that's a real strategic communications operation. They're very good, but they don't get up every morning to hold the national media accountable and go after these people for lying about us, for lying about issues, writing biased articles and those kinds of things. We don't have that. So what I've done is I've taken what I see in the right and made kind of what they've done. I've seized some voids that we desperately need. And most importantly, we need conservative organizations that are the full spectrum of conservatism, not just security, not just economic, not just social, that are conservatives in their being and want to pull together as best we can a conservative movement. We are starting from scratch right after the election. And I'm just urging you right now, ladies and gentlemen, to get involved in these efforts. Give you an example. Now, I may step on some toes here, but we haven't had a true grassroots organization since the old Ralph Reed Christian Coalition. And I'm talking about political activists on the ground in local chapters working on issues and being trained in communications and how to push an issue and developing relationship with the elected officials and either working for them or against them. So I created one. It's called Coalition for Conservative Majority. We've got 8 chapters now. We have a 5-year plan. We hope to be in all 50 states and the major media markets across the country. 50, 60, 100 people in a major media, in a media market. They come together and meet on a regular basis like a Rotary Club and develop strategies and plans and tactics to push a conservative agenda. We desperately need, what I described earlier, is a communications operation. We have got to raise the money to put together a political group that competes in the media markets, in all media markets. We got great blogs, John's blog and others, they're all great out there, and they meet every now and then, that kind of stuff. That's all well and good. It's very, very important. I'm not trying to replace them. But we need a central communications operation that gets up every morning and goes after the national media, and especially the mainstream media, as Rush talks about it. We need more of documentaries and movies with our worldview. We need to pull the conservative radio talk shows people together and meet at least once a year and talk to each other about what's going on in politics, making sure they're getting what they need to do their job. I'm not telling them what to say. They would never take that. But to bring them together and talk politics and talk strategy, and so that we can pull conservatives together and fight what we have to fight in a coalition basis. We need a redistricting operation. I have already formed a group called FIRE, Freedom Institute for Research and Education, which is what I call an action tank. I wish I'd had this when I was in leadership, where you have a group that can team up with members of Congress on the inside on their conservative legislative agenda and bring the outside resources and create these action teams with those guys on the inside so that you could drive a conservative legislative agenda. If you had just that, you wouldn't have last week. Because you've been organized, you've been ready, you've had the mechanism to fight the president, and everybody else has stood up to you. And maybe you could have stopped that disaster of last week. So, and then the most important is, at some point in time, we hope, and I've been working on this for a year and a half, we hope to get our donors to start thinking about coordinating their giving to groups that are effective, giving to projects that represent the conservative movement, rather than being out there, and I know how to work, I've done it myself, and if somebody brings up an idea, I had a friend of mine call me up last week, wanted to run card check ads. He had this great ad, could I help him? This guy came to him with this great ad on card checks, one run between now and the election. And he wanted $4 million to run this ad. Can you all imagine what an impact, or the lack of an impact of a card check ad with $4 million between now and the election? That's just $4 million poured down the hole. Not coordinated, no grassroots effort, no overreaching political strategy. We, ladies and gentlemen, we conservatives, have to start thinking long term. We have to get organized. We have to pull together. We have to look at leaders that want to pull us together as a movement, not a bunch of organizations, but a movement working together to drive a conservative agenda. I'm not talking about the Republican Party. We're back to when Eddie Childs said, "I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore." Back in the 70s, when we were all fractured, and we started coming together and working together for the good of this country. And look what we were able to accomplish over those years. It's pretty amazing. We're back to that. We have to come together. And we have to work together. And we have to be with each other a lot more than we are. Or we'll never... I really feel this election, and I'm with John, it doesn't matter who's president, the conservative movement is going to have a lot of work to do. no matter who's president.